disclaimer. If you see me looking this way, that is because that is where my laptop is. So for book I'm going to be talking about in the first episode of Chatting Kit Reviews, working title is Honeysuckle Shallow Cove by January Rain. So this book is a dark romance, but this specific book follows Creed and Demi, and I will be talking about torture and rape because it's a very prominent thing in this book. So this book opens up to Creed, and it is multiple point of views, but Creed is the first one we see, and it's his for the first few chapters, because he's in a secluded institution. He doesn't know where he is, he doesn't know who he is, and he doesn't know how long he's been there. He has no memories, including the memories of the life he had before he got to this institution. And this place has been torturing Creed and the other people that they kidnap, and combining their DNA with the DNA of monsters. For example, Creed is specifically made up of a vampire, kraken, werewolf, snake, and dragon. I had to specifically look at my laptop because I always forget one. Then he escapes the institution. If you need a bit of help imagining it, the way I pictured it was the institution/scientist based thing from Stranger Things, except this was more based on adults and not children. But he escapes the institution, he breaks out all the other inmates/prisoners and ends up butchering all the other scientists, so essentially there's no one left alive that worked there. And while escaping, he finds Shallow Cove, or actually I'm not even sure if the institution was in Shallow Cove, that bit's a bit grey, but he finds Shallow Cove and he finds a diner, specifically Demi's diner, which belongs to Demi, who's the female main character in this book. So she got this diner from her mum, who got it from her mum. So originally it was owned by Demi's grandma, which I believe all three of them had the same name. I know, very confusing. And it is in this diner where he meets Demi, where his infatuation and obsession with her starts. So going into this book, I was thoroughly intrigued by the idea of it, because one, I love dark romance. Two, Frankenstein is my favourite classic. Like, if you know me in real life, I do not shut up about this book. I have seen Guillermo del Toro's rendition of Frankenstein 4 times, 3 of which was in the first week that I got put on Netflix. However, the comparison of Frankenstein and this book literally ends the second the actual romance starts. You will find out. Also, due to Creed no longer being a normal human, he is incredibly insecure and is convinced that Demi would never love him. And I think I will actually speak more on this later because of what he looks like. So his skin is grey, he has fangs, he has smoke coming out of his mouth a lot of the time at the start because he can't control himself, which I suppose is kind of fair. But yeah. So he's just sat in the back of the diner in a booth that is covered by shadows, so he can see out. People can't necessarily see him, they can see someone sat there, but they can't see the detail of his face. So, some of my thoughts. I'm okay with a stalker romance. I'm okay with stalker and monster romance. For example, some of my top dark romances are Her Soul to Take trilogy by Holly LaRue, Lights Out trilogy by Nafessa Allen. I haven't read Game On, but I do want to. And I've read, I believe, all of Nafessa Allen's books, minus House of Rain. Not Nafessa Allen, Holly LaRue. Sorry, for books, I think you can just about see them there. There? Holly LaRue. I haven't read House of Rain, however, I do want to. And I still need to read the third Lights Out book, which I believe is called Game On. However, there is something this book does that I'd normally immediately DNF a book. However, due to the fact the book was only 19 chapters long, not including the 2 unnecessary epilogues, like they just weren't needed, I decided to push through. And this book just got weird. And that, for me, that is saying a lot. Like, I love for weird and for macabre. I'm more than happy to read a taboo book. Like, I've read for fans, which is a stepbrother romance. I've read the pre-series, which, you know. After a few days, time isn't necessarily mentioned in full in this book, so you're not 100% on the timeline of this book, except for something that happens later on in the book. I'm just going to spoil it. Demi's pregnancy. Demi ends up getting pregnant by Creed. I will mention this. I will go into it in more detail. And it isn't the same length as a human pregnancy. So that's a bit not convoluted. I'm not even sure what that word means, but it popped in my head. Bit confusing. Anyway, but after a few days, like I said, time isn't mentioned in this book. And after Creed has killed all of the people that have upset or tried to harm Demi, so after he has murdered so many people, the town ends up putting a curfew. Like, the mayor of the town is like, there's a curfew now, and it's put into effect to save the people from being murdered, because they don't know who's doing it. They just think it's some murderer who's leaving the hearts out next to the bodies. However, it is just Creed. And the police, who is actually a friend of... It's a small town as well, so everyone knows everyone, sort of thing. The sheriff has clerked that Demi is involved, but she's not the one doing the killing. He realises that all the people that have died have pissed off or harmed Demi in some way. So he's like, okay, it's someone protecting Demi. After a while of watching Demi from afar, Creed decides he must have her, so he stalks her, finds out where she lives, learns her routine, to the point he knew how long her showers were. So when she was in the shower, he broke into her house. Actually, I'm not even sure where she was. I believe she was in the shower. Sneaks into her house, and then I think it's venom. I can't remember what drug he uses, but he drugs her tea. So when she gets out of the shower, she starts drinking the tea, she passes out. And that's when the rape happens, and he forces himself on her. And it was this point in the book that I wanted to DNF, because the second, I think it was captured by Lauren or Laurel Beale, that I literally DNF, because for a male main character, sort of a female main character, and you expect me to like this guy. I'm not reading a book where the male main character, you know, rapes the female main character. And I understand that some authors write it as a way to cope with their own assault. But with me, I'd read a book where it's consent, non-consent, where it's a kink, but not when the person has passed out and explicitly cannot consent. However, I didn't actually end up DNFing this book. I just ended up rating it 1 star, and that is because for audiobook, so I listened to it using Spotify, because I pay for premium, and it was only around 7 hours long, and it only had 19 chapters, and I'm not included for 2 unnecessary epilogues. And I know Spotify isn't necessarily the best app, and I do want to stop using it, but if you find a alternative app that is audiobooks as well, because I don't want to have 2 separate apps, because my phone, not for what I'm filming on, I'm not sure what, this phone, which is but that's the Moto E15. Is this a Moto? Anyway, this phone doesn't necessarily have the best storage, and it can't handle a lot of apps. From this point on, the book just snowballed. It lost the plot. Where is it? I don't know. It's gone. Disappeared completely. Anyway, this moment results in something that I mentioned earlier, which is Demi being pregnant with an egg, which I found extremely weird. And yeah, and I kid you not, this event, or these events up until this point, result in the demon police coming up. Yeah, so this is what I mean by it. The book has lost the plot. The demon police, and I don't know what else to call them, turn up to arrest Creed, and that's when you find out that Demi is his fated mate. Yes, there's even fated mates in this, which is fine, because I know fated mates is quite popular in for werewolf scene. I haven't read that many, if any, werewolf romances. It's because the woman wasn't his fated mate. Like, he was destined to be with Demi. And I'm just like, if this was a normal romance, how would they have met? I kind of want to know for what ifs. Creed then goes away with them and is in, can't remember if it's Hell or the Underworld, to learn how to control his different monsters. But it gets cut short by Demi because she quite literally is dying without him. And she ends up visiting him, begs for him to come back, and he's like, I can't, I need to learn how to control myself, which I did actually like. However, she goes, she ends up close to being dead, so he has to leave. Yeah, so like I said, I'm fine with dark romance, I'm fine with taboo romance, I'm fine with stalker romance, I'm fine with weird romances. I grew up on Wattpad, where I was probably reading books that I shouldn't have been reading, but you know. And that says a lot. But this book took everything that I thought was strange and weird and peculiar and just topped it. And it was like, here's the chart of weirdness, I'm up here. And this book ends up with a birthing ritual where Creed flies for both of them into fear, drops her, and then catches her. They also have intimate acts in fear, because that needs to happen. So Demi can have a pain-free birth because she doesn't give birth to a normal child, she gives birth to an egg. And I was just reading this book and I was just thinking, what the hell? And I was just thinking about, you know, what happens when you have sex? And I was just like, what about, you know, wouldn't that rain? I'm trying to explain it without using graphic language. And also I do apologise for putting that thought in your head, but that is where my brain went. And I'm just like, what about for people below, won't it? You know? I'm like, yeah. So originally I was actually going to rate this book 4 to 5 stars, because other than the whole assault, I thoroughly enjoyed this book. However, due to the fact that Creed sexually assaulted Demi, raped her, and a character pointed it out, I kid you not, Demi's best friend was like, you raped Demi? And Creed turned around and said, oh, it wasn't rape, because she enjoyed it. She was moaning in her sleep. And the only reason why this book had 1 star was because I liked the beginning. And that was the only good thing this book had going for it. Obviously, if you read this book and you enjoyed it, that's completely fine. This is the thing about reading and being on the internet. Everything has different opinions. Like, I don't like Justin Bieber. That's the first thing that came in my head. Whereas my sister adores Justin Bieber. I like Sleep Token. She doesn't particularly like it, or I don't think she knows who Sleep Token is. Anyway, before I start talking about stuff that has nothing to do with this book, I'm going to end this video now. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. Don't forget to comment down below what videos you want me to do, and questions, and then I'll happily do a Q&A video. Also give this video a big thumbs up if you enjoyed it, and press the subscribe button and the notification bell so then you get a notification every single time I upload a brand new video. Also check out my Instagram, which is Fictional Roo. Also check out Bookmarked by Kiku, which is also on Instagram, because that's my small business. And hopefully should be opening officially sometime in April.